So, sectarianism is alive and well in Northern Ireland, according to the Chief of the Community Relations Council. Nothing changes then. But in America, something's going on.
If there is anyone out there who still doubts that America is a place where all things are possible, who still wonders if the dream of our founders is alive in our time, who still questions the power of our democracy, tonight is your answer.
So, can we learn from the American experience? With me, three MLAs, Stephen Farry of Alliance, the SDLPs, Dolores Kelly, and also Unionist Fred Cobain. Dolores Kelly, you are critical of the office of Deputy First Minister. Why?
Well, for a number of reasons, not least the failure of them to give any leadership in relation to tackling sectarianism. We were promised on the 1st of April this year that the Cohesion, Sharing and Integration strategy would be produced and was at a very high level of development. We are now at almost coming up again to the Christmas recess. We were told, like the Victims Commission last year, that it would be at the summer recess, Halloween recess, and it's not there.
So you're critical of the fact there's no strategy, but does it not go wider than that? Is it not about a framework? For instance, in his speech there, Barack Obama says that the true genius of America is that America can change. This was something that he says the Founding Fathers recognised, a constitution that evolves and changes. The SDLP is a founding father, if you like, of current arrangements. And the one thing we can say about our current arrangements is they cannot change. They're brittle.
Well, I think it would be very remiss of us not to acknowledge a lot of the changes that have happened across the North. We are seeing changes at different levels. We are seeing community contexts that would not have been possible before, but we're not changing quickly enough. And certainly the changes at some stages at local level, we're not seeing that change in terms of true partnership working and power sharing rather than the division of power by Sinn Féin and the DUP.
But Fred Cobain, you know, again, another founding father, if you like, of the current arrangements. The also Unionist Party signed up to the Good Friday Agreement. You know, again, Barack Obama talks about how the union in America can be perfected. But here we have a system which has perfected division. So that, for instance, last week when there is a parade, we have an automatic protest. People feel that's their right.
Well, I mean, people have a right to protest. I don't doubt that. I think last week, I don't think the Nationalist and Republican community really understand, how the Protestant community felt last week and how hurt they were by the protests.
But is there any reason for them to feel differently whenever the system of government recognises that you don't have to have common agreement, you simply have your own beliefs?
Community relations work on 3 or 4 levels. Look at the strategic level. We have an built-in sectarian style of government here, which we all agree to. And that's how this was set up in 1998, and it is sectarian. And it institutionalises everything that you're talking about. Now, we as politicians need to break out of that. And that's the leadership that we need to give, and we're not giving that particular leadership. And, it's very difficult for people on the ground to talk in a way that expands about community relations when we can't get even our politicians to talk around major problems that affect their lives. So, it's not all the fault of the communities. Politicians are supposed to lead and they're not leading. OK.
Stephen Farry, the Alliance Party, of course, has always been big on this whole shared future thing.
Sure.
Is there anything we can learn from the American experience? It's too much, perhaps, to say it's now post-racial, but is there something going on there?
Sure. Just to clarify, last week's parade in Belfast wasn't just a thing for Protestants and Unionists. There are a lot of people across the community who are involved in the British Armed Service. It's important to acknowledge that. I think the election in America was a tremendous moment in history, and it really points to the sign of new potential for post-identity politics in the United States with the election of a multiracial president, though there's deep division still in that country to be tackled. Here, to my mind, community relations issues have always been a poor part of our policy. It's always been pushed to the sidelines. The Shared Future strategy didn't actually emerge until 2005, 7 years after the agreement, under direct rule. Today, the DUP and Sinn Féin are playing games with a CSI, Cohesion, Sharing and Integration strategy. And frankly, you would need a CSI investigator to find it.
Well, is the Alliance Party, though, about to give up the moral high ground? You've always been critical of perhaps the sectarian divisions within government here. And yet we hear of progress, perhaps, on policing and justice alliance being brought into the tent. Will you have any credibility as this sort of anti-identity party if you do that?
Well, certainly we're not chasing anything on policing and justice. We have said we're prepared to play a constructive role, and certainly the devolution of policing and justice is important for our society in terms of moving on. If it does come to pass that Alliance is asked to play a role in that regard, it doesn't negate anything we're saying about the structures of government and the need to tackle sectarianism and segregation at a grassroots level.
Dolores Kelly, is it enough to to just blame the office of First and Deputy First Minister. For instance, could the SDLP take a lead on these issues? If you're so unhappy with how things are being run, why not move into opposition?
Well, I think one of the things, Jim, I'd want to put right is in terms of protection of the Good Friday Agreement and indeed the gerrymandering and gerrypandering that's going on in relation to the Justice Ministry. That is something which, by right under DeHunt, belongs to the SDLP.
But is that not, going back to that Barack Obama point, is that not, if he says the genius of the American system is it allows for change, surely the ultimate stupidity of the system here is that it doesn't? Well,
the SDLP has said that the Good Friday Agreement was the best compromise for this time, and sometime in the future we will look to new arrangements, but that the rights and the equality that was protected under the Good Friday Agreement would be enshrined in any future developments of the island of Ireland. The fact is, currently Sinn Féin and the DUP are dividing up power, and they're dividing the power in such a way that the SDLP will be denied the ministry that is theirs of right, and that's policing and justice.
Fred Cobain, the Ulster Unionists aren't blameless in all of this. You were in talks recently with the TUV on the basis that it's better for people to vote for any unionist rather than perhaps the SDLP or any other party. I mean, surely that is pandering to sectarianism.
Well, I mean, quite obviously, isn't. I'm a unionist because I'm anti-sectarian, and I believe that the union offers us, an anti-sectarian platform. Britain or the United Kingdom is well known throughout the world for being at the forefront of democracy. It's a multiracial, multicultural society, and I'm proud to be in it.
But when you see Barack Obama saying he wants to reach out across the aisle, the Ulster Unionist Party saying exactly the opposite.
No. I work like other politicians on the interfaces, and I reach across divisions, and it's extremely difficult to do. But it's work that has to be done. But if you look at we're talking about community relations, you look at the society. This society is segregated. We're segregating politics, we're segregating housing, we're segregated in education. And I have to say, a lot of politicians are happy to be segregated.
And is it getting worse, though? We heard from Tommy Cheevers there saying that the community on the ground perhaps don't want them to get involved in dialogue.
No. Well, I have to say now, communities and community workers have carried this issue around sectarianism themselves, and a lot of politicians have run away and left them to do it. And what I'm saying to you is this, if you're talking about community relations is more than who's going to be the new Minister of Justice. Community relations is on the ground working, trying to break down divisions, and this society is full of divisions.
Well, Stephen Farry, is that, going back to that point, the fact that Alliance is even flirting with the idea of moving into this executive will remove your ability to attack this structure as being fundamentally flawed?
I don't think so for one moment that will be the case. We will continue to point out the flaws, both in terms of government but also in terms of wider society. At the moment, we have a two-speed Northern Ireland where you have a group of people who are engaged in the global economy fairly well, that they're doing not too bad in terms of their income. At the same time, you have a large swathe of people from both sides of the community in Northern Ireland who are missing out, massive deprivation, and you can't talk about growing the economy in Northern Ireland and ignore community relations. The two go hand in hand. You have to have a shared future. You have problems with labour mobility. People can't access jobs. You have problems about deterrence of inward investment due to divisions on the ground. So frankly, the executive cannot talk about the economy being priority number one and sideline the shared future. The two must go hand in hand.
OK, Stephen Farry, we must leave it there. Dolores, Kelly and Frank Cobain, thank you both very much indeed too.